cost of living and democracy. The Medway survey was clear, with over 80% of local residents agreeing that we should see Medway with a living wage. And we agree. We agree because it shows a Medway Labour Council treats its hard-working officers with respect and wants to be an employer of choice. As we laid out in a budget meeting, we would part fund that with a reduction in councillors' allowances for senior councillors. We also want to see no person carrying out services being forced onto a 0 hours contract. So we will ensure that any future council contracts don't have that exploitative element. Now, the cost of living goes far beyond the doors of Gunwall. We know, thanks to the work pushed forward by Glenn Griffiths, that Medway has some of the highest bus fares in the region. That needs to change, and a Labour Council will do all it can to change it, both reducing ticket prices but also simplifying the ticketing structure. Now, we also know that gas and electric bills have a huge impact on household finances. It was the most popular change residents requested in our Medway survey when we asked them about the impact on finances for families. So we will bring real and positive change. We will introduce a Medway Community Collective Energy Switch scheme, simple to access, not needing the internet, and on average, putting over £200 back into family households. And of course, a Labour Council will continue the work we have spearheaded in opposition on the blight on our town centres and high streets of payday lenders who have profited from the cost of living crisis our community has struggled with. We will promote ethical alternatives like credit unions. Friends, these are practical ways to help ease the last 5 years of real cost of living crisis which have hurt families here in Medway. Now, when it comes to the issue of democracy, there can be no doubt in anyone's mind the current Tory council simply don't listen to residents, whether it's Strood Library, Chatham Bus Station or Rochester Airfield. The Tories simply ignore the public and carry on regardless. Or when it comes to building a Japanese garden on a roundabout in Gillingham, they didn't even bother to ask in the first place. And when residents rightly want to play their part, can they ask questions at cabinet meetings? No. Can they ask questions at the planning committee? No. And when they attempted to ask questions at full council, they were thrown out by the Tories. Absolutely disgraceful. But it doesn't need to be that way. We have put forward some really simple alternative approaches. Here's a shocking new idea. How about listening to residents by allowing them to question people at cabinet meetings? We also want to see residents being able to speak in the planning process, and we would allow that to happen and work with residents to make that system happen in Medway. We'd also have a more efficient cabinet with less portfolio holders and, as I mentioned earlier, a cut in senior councillors' allowances to help fund the Medway Council living wage. Finally, in the area of democracy, we simply don't think, unlike our Tory friends, it is right to be asking parliamentary candidates what their favourite music is or what meal they would like to have in a taxpayer-funded magazine. We would scrap the Tory policy of politicising council communication tools like Medway Matters. Unacceptable. So there you have it. In 47 days' time, it will be the voters of Medway who will choose what vision they want for their community. This morning, we've laid out our priorities, built by the residents of Medway, enhanced with Labour values and principles. This is our plan for Medway's future, our plan for the next 4 years. 4 years of a Medway Labour Council would see a real increase in the number of affordable houses and taking on the bad letting agencies and bad landlords. 4 years of a Medway Labour Council tackling the unacceptable Key Stage 2 results for our young people and focusing on apprenticeships. 4 years for a Medway Labour Council supporting Medway Maritime, fighting for the resources it needs and strengthening other services to reduce the need of A&E services. 4 years of a Medway Labour Council putting money into households with our community collective energy switch scheme and taking on the unaffordable bus theft. 4 years of a Medway Labour Council will see a multi-million-pound local fund for tackling poor roads and pavements. 4 years of a Medway Labour Council cutting the cost of councillors and opening up decision-making. But it's not the only future in offer in 47 days' time. There is a Tory future too. A Tory future which continues their decade of decline. Their decade of decline on our town centres. Their decade of decline on our key stage 2 results. Their decade of decline with increased use of food banks. Their decade of decline with our roads and pavements. Their decade of decline of the ever-increasing costs of private sector housing and the never-decreasing housing waiting list. That's the alternative, and one which Medway simply cannot afford to risk. Our proud towns deserve better than another 4 years of decline. So that's the choice at this election. The pessimists or the optimists, the few or the many, fear or hope, continuing a decade of decline for Tories or a Medway Labour plan built listening to residents. Today, I urge Medway to choose hope and optimism. I say choose a community for the many. Choose a plan for all residents of our towns and villages. Decide to hope. To recognise that if we are true to the ideas that when all residents succeed, Medway as a whole succeeds, nothing can stop us. Let's seize the chance to change Medway together. Thank you very much.